Well, good evening, chiefs, delegates, and candidates. Miigwech Dinin, Din Mikkel Nam Kanawia. I'm Gima Duke Peltry from Wequampong Cedar Territory, and I'm proud to be here to introduce and to nominate Alvin Fiddler for the national chief position. I do want to say that I've had a personal relationship with Alvin for many, many years. I believe that, I think that one of the most important things that really compelled me to be attracted to his work is when he became a Deputy Grand Chief at Nishnawbe Aski Nation in 2012. I was also elected chief here in Wequampong at the same time. And when I walked into the First Nation Child and Family Caring Society Human Rights Tribunal hearings, he was the only leader that was sitting there beside me at the time. And it wasn't until a few years later before it attracted the attention of the rest of the leadership across the country. And it's from that perspective that myself, I knew that he was a leader that truly cared about the children and our future and our families. And from that perspective, I know that he listens, he comprehends, and he's a man of action. Throughout his career, he's had a wide array and a diverse career where he's worked in the health sector. He's been a health director. He's been a family treatment center manager. He's also been appointed on many occasions to some of the very toughest files that came across in Ontario. And when he took on some roles with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission for the Ontario Regional Liaison, and also through much of the justice initiatives that have taken place, where whether it was inquests for deaths of children in Thunder Bay or the Ipperwash Inquiry. These are areas that Alvin has worked diligently on. In regards to some of the areas that require the attention at a national level, he's been at the forefront of policing reform in Ontario, where we are trying to make policing an essential service through his type of work. In saying all that, his platform and his vision that he's bringing forward is centered around the core objectives that I believe in wholeheartedly, that it has to be about our children, it has to be about the land and the water, and about our communities. And from his work throughout his political career, he's demonstrated time and time again that those are his focuses. And he's been able to deliver on time on many occasions for the people that he represents. And it's from that perspective that I'm coming through here and endorsing Alvin as the national chief candidate.
Alvin, go ahead.
Miigwech, Ogama Pelche. Miigwech, Kidden. I got the Wyndham Shin with the Baton Max Makan, my check zone. Miigwech, Kid now Mechanic. I want to start by acknowledging the prayers, the songs from this morning to the elders and the knowledge keepers that opened this meeting for us this morning. Now, I acknowledge all of you, chiefs. I know it's been a long day, and I thank you for staying to hear us this afternoon, this evening. And so I acknowledge your leadership. I acknowledge your territories, your citizens. I also want to acknowledge all our veterans and all our Indian residents and school survivors. Miigwech Santikit, Mina Magmanda West, I'm speaking to you this evening from Thunder Bay and the beautiful Robinson Superior Treaty Territory. And so I always acknowledge Chief Peter Collins and the beautiful people of Fort William First Nation for allowing us to be here. I also want to acknowledge the challenging times that we find ourselves in right now, not only with this global pandemic, but also the recent discovery of our children and two Kamloops, Sequetimik and Coasis First Nation, and other former sites of Indian residential schools right across the country, right across our territories. And I just want to say this, that thoughts and prayers are no longer enough. This requires urgent and thoughtful action. Legwezin Kazian, Alvin Fiddler. My name is Alvin Fiddler from Muskrat Dam First Nation in the Treaty 9 territory. It's a small community of 200 people on the beautiful shores of the Severn River. And I always talk about my parents because I would not be here without my mom and my dad. And I feel very fortunate that I was raised by two wonderful parents. My mother, Eunice, who is now in her mid-80s, is at an elders facility in Sioux Lookout for the last 4 years. And she was a healer. And she often tells me about the babies that she helped deliver while she was living up in Bearskin Lake and in Muskrat Dam. And my dad, Moses, who passed away 7 years ago. And my dad was a hunter, a gatherer, fisherman, a gardener, taught me how to garden. And as a young boy, my dad witnessed the signing of the APTN Treaty Number 9 up in Victor Lake. And he would often talk to us about what the treaty meant to him and the other elders that were there, and then passing on those teachings to us, that they never surrendered their land. Not one tree, not one rock, not one lake. That they never talked about surrendering anything. And that's what he wanted me to make sure that I knew growing up in the work that I do today, that we have ownership of our land, our water, and everything that's in it. And also the sacred responsibility that comes with it to look after our land. And he talked about the treaty and what it means and what it meant to them, that it means, first of all, peaceful coexistence, mutual benefits. And if all the parties follow the terms and conditions of the treaty, it will mean prosperity for everyone. And so those are my parents. I'm incredibly lucky as well that I have a wonderful family. My wife, Tisa, I'm sure she's listening from our home. She's one of the most passionate educators that I know. And she's also been my barber over the last year and a half. And I thank her for her love, for her abiding love and support to my family over the last, we got married in 1997. And I just honor her and thank her for the work that she does. We are blessed with two wonderful children. Allison is 16 years old, and Ali just got her beginner's license recently. And so she takes me for rides, and I'm your typical nervous dad, you know, whenever she goes driving, because I want to make sure that she follows all the rules of the road. And she is becoming just a beautiful young woman, and I acknowledge her. Jace is 21, and Jace lives with complex needs. And so I get it, you know, when we talk about the needs of our children, that no matter what they may be up against, that they deserve to have access to the supports that they need to live a quality of life and to be healthy and happy. And my platform, which leads me to why I'm running, you know, my platform is based on my life's teachings and life's work. And for me, it starts with our children. Les enfants. We are still reeling from the recent revelations of those little ones who never made it home from Indian residential schools across the country. And I am committed to supporting the sacred work that needs to happen of finding, identifying, and bringing them home. And also to follow the evidence wherever it leads to make sure that the institutions that are responsible for this genocide, for this injustice, are held accountable. But even like today, even as we seek justice for these children who never came home, we must also fight for them, making sure that they have access to the services they need and deserve where and when they need it. And those of you that have known me and watched me work, and I thank Chief Pelche for mentioning the first time we met. It was at the Human Rights Tribunal building in Ottawa, fighting for our children, that I will never grow tired of fighting for the rights of our children. The second point of my platform, our land, La Terre. Within, just looking at the news in the last few days, with the recent heat waves, drought, forest fires, and an ocean on fire, we have reached a critical point with our planet. And I also just want to acknowledge our relatives in BC who are right now displaced, some of them, because of the forest fires, the threat of the forest fires to their homes and their communities. And we will make sure that there are supports for them in the days ahead. But we also know that from our own teachings, that in order for Mother Earth to sustain us into the future, we also need to care for her and to look after her. And we know that our people have always had ways of caring for the land, our waters, our fish, our trees. And we have to get back to these ways to bring balance and healing. Community, like commandite. As I've gathered with you chiefs over these last 4 weeks, through Zoom meetings and phone calls, I have heard over and over, not just from the leadership, but from community members right across the country, about the systemic racism that continues to harm our people and sometimes even causing death, whether it's policing or the hospitals or even in the schools. We know that the institutions that claim to provide care are failing us. And I just want to talk a little bit about some of the work we've done here at Nishnawbe Aski Nation to address some of these important issues. That as Grand Chief over the last 6 years, we have taken steps to address the inequities on education through the 7 Youth Inquest that was held 5 years ago. And I always honor those students that died here in Thunder Bay, that to make sure that their death was not in vain, that they are not forgotten. And that through the work that we've done, we've supported students that come to Thunder Bay and other urban centers. Many of them still have to leave, as I did when I was 14 years old, to go to high school. And we need to make sure that you have the supports to create that pathway of success for them. Community safety is also another important priority that I've heard from you chiefs over the last 5 weeks or 6 weeks. And that's something we've done to Adnan, especially during this pandemic. We have worked towards creating legislation where the Nishnawbe Aski Police Service and other First Nation police services in the province of Ontario, those that want to, can finally get designation, that they can finally be deemed an essential service with adequacy standards. And so that they can finally meet the mandate that they were given when they were created, in our case, Adnan, for naps almost 30 years ago. The future, love and ear, love and ear. As we move past this global pandemic, we need a recovery plan for all our nations to make sure that all of us come through this, not just surviving, but thriving. In order for us to effectively develop and implement this roadmap, we need a renewed mandate for the AFN, our national organization. And that begins with listening to the distinct and diverse needs of our nations. We know that the challenges we are facing today are enormous, whether it's making sure that our communities have access to clean, safe drinking water, adequate housing, adequate healthcare, public health, mental health, education. The list goes on and on. But as I think about and reflect on these challenges that we're facing, the situation could not be more urgent. We need an assembly that can rise to these challenges, one that is purpose-built, responsive, transformed. The AFN does not exist to make things easy for government, to create consensus where none exists, or to be a one-stop shop for government to cross off duty to consult off the bureaucratic checklist. But in spite of all this, chiefs and citizens, in spite of all the enormous challenges facing our people, I remain fundamentally hopeful for what we can do together. I am ready to work. My family is ready. My team is ready. And my door will always be open. And we will serve you with humility. We will serve you with respect. And we will serve you with fire. And tonight, chiefs, I, with great humility, ask for your support, for your vote tomorrow. And together, I know we will do great things for our children and for our communities. Kaya ask committed, Masi Cho, Walanan, Hi, Miigwech. Thank you so much, Masi Cho. Merci beaucoup.